Great. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Andrew Daly from MGI Research. I'm delighted to be here with my distinguished guests, who I'll introduce in a minute. I first want to start by just thanking Mark and Tom for organizing this event. I think it's actually very appropriate that we're at the library and there's a seed lending library. I don't know how many of you noticed that here. And I think that fits Tom to a T, which is, if you look out across the room, he sowed some seeds, and then you see the harvest from that, and now everyone here is going out and doing another second round of sowing of the seeds. So it's really special to be here once again, and thank you guys. MGI Research, we cover the world of quote to cash. We came up with this concept of an agile monetization platform or reference architecture 10 plus years ago. And we really love this space. And the reason for that is multifold. First of all, if you think about it, when you send out a bill, people think about billing as like a back office function. In reality, when you send a bill, you can either meet a customer's expectations or disappoint them. In our own consumer lives, we can all think of immediately the companies where we receive a bill and you think, what a POS this is, and I hate these guys, right? It's a very visceral reaction, even if you never turned on the cable box all month, right? Similarly, if you send out a bill and it's transparent, it's accurate, it's easy to understand, it's a representation of that company's brand values, right? Their brand attributes. Same thing in quoting. As soon as you engage with a prospect, they're forming an opinion of, do I want to do business with this company or not? So it's not just, can we get the quote out quickly to win the business, it's what kind of expectations am I setting with that customer, right? And that's beyond just, how are they going to experience the product? Customer experience with the product, your widget, your digital service, that's maybe 30 to 40% of your total brand prop. So we really love the world of quote to cash, billing, quoting, mediation, order management, all of that, rev rec, because it's so vital to every company, every organization, even universities have to do billing, right? The other reason we like this space is money continues to pour into the space. So first off, you look at it and you say, how big is this market? If you take the whole world of quote to cash, products and services, this is a $100+ billion TAM. That's a huge opportunity. And as Tom and Mark alluded to earlier, we've got a whole transformation that's going to take place in terms of a set of suppliers that started 15, 20 plus years ago who are going to struggle to be competitive in the next 2 to 3 years. And likewise, there's a whole bunch of new companies coming onto the scene that are going to threaten, the royalty that was once at the top of the heap here. So we love the fact that there's continues to be a lot of money going into this space, continues to be a lot of M&A activity. There's 3 or 4 companies right now that are in play, and you're going to see more. So with that as a backdrop, let's get into it here. Andrew, Matt, maybe first, if you guys could introduce first your company, 60 seconds, and then give us a little bit of your tech stack and kind of where you started from and where you are today, just so we can level set with everybody here.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
So I'm Andrew. I'm the Director of Business Systems at PDQ, and PDQ focuses heavily on endpoint management. PDQ stands for Pretty Damn Quick, which is part of our slogan of making device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick. So been doing that, been at PDQ for about 2 years. And then involving our tech stack a little bit, right? We're a Salesforce shop. We've got Salesforce. We also leverage HubSpot for our marketing automation. We use Tray.io or Tray.ai now, I guess, is an iPaaS solution as well. We're also in the process of implementing New as our billing and quote-to-cash management solution. And then we also leverage Retool as well. So that's some of our technology that we're leveraging today.
Cool.
Yeah, so Matt Pieper, Director of Enterprise Engineering at LeafLink. I have the privilege of running the entire gambit. So I have product engineers under me and our marketplace and billing experience. I have our Salesforce practice and some of our marketing website and pieces like that. So I have the privilege to stand kind of across the stack and see each of those pieces. And if you think about like Conway's Law, right, being able to look across and say, we can build systems that aren't built in silos because we can see that end-to-end process. LeafLink itself, we're about a 10-year-old Series E startup in the Canatech space. We provide an online marketplace for dispensaries to be able to buy from the sellers, right? Your flower producers, your gummies, right? Your pre-rolls, and be able to transact that across. We also offer payment tooling that typical cannabis companies can't get in the space, such as our direct pay method, where we can give that promise to the manufacturers that they will get paid at the end of the day. Over the last year, we've acquired a couple of other brands, such as Dama, which is our financial banking institution, and FinTech arm, which is unique in the cannabis space, and then Leaf Trade, who is more of an enterprise player marketplace. But we've had a journey all the way from Recurly, doing everything to a CPQ steel brick plus Salesforce billing, and like Andrew said, right, like we had some Tray.io integrations firing, our booking entries over to Intact, and it was a mess when I started about 2 years ago. Since then, we ripped out Salesforce billing with Sage Intact and then said, okay, steel brick doesn't really get us there, right? Like we're not going for product-led growth. How do we do things like usage and those pieces? And we brought in New. And now with that lens of going, okay, how do we bring in that unified data model and start to improve our billing itself? Just like you said, Andrew, that bill at the end of the day affects our NPS. That's one of the metrics we use is, did we have any mention of billing in our net promoter scores and surveys? Because our view is, billing's a lot like the NSA, right? No one should know anything about it. And people will know when it goes wrong. But at the end of the day, success is silence, right? And that's what we're trying to strive to go for.
Let's dive in now. First, let's start at a high level. So in terms of like business objectives, as you guys are on this journey, if I said today, what are the things that you guys are driving towards and what are you looking for in terms of the systems from New and others that you have in the stack? Like at a high level, what are the top level goals? Is it growth? Is it profitability? What are you looking to achieve?
Yeah, I think for us, the big piece for us, especially in Canatech, right, as there's more consolidation, is the ability to experiment, right? So we have product market fit, but we're not sure, do we have the right offerings from a pricing standpoint? Do we roll out a usage and take rate model that is common on marketplaces? Can we support a SaaS model? Can we support professional services? And so being able to tweak those promos and being able to give that to our reps allows us to have that speed to market. And at the end of the day, that's our driving growth right now is how can we get quotes out the door quicker? But on the same side, how can we drive product-led growth where we don't have to invest that much time in selling, and we can invest that time in how to use our platform, right? Enablement, and get that more adoption out of it. So really it's that growth and then also revenue stabilization as we try to drive towards profitability.
Yeah,
How about for you, Andrew?
Yeah, very similar aspect in terms of experimentation with different products and pricing offerings. PDQ is also in the process of acquiring companies as well. So as we are thinking about how do we unify all of our data and onboard an acquired company, being able to plug in their products and pricing is a big component of that. Obviously, both growth and profitability are things that are top of mind for us. And another big focus is around continuing to drive a good experience across multiple channels, right? As PDQ has started off as a PLG company and then over the last several years has started to dive into more of enterprise selling. We think there's a lot of value in allowing someone to start off self-serve and then transition at some point to work with direct sales or vice versa, right? Of we want to allow the customer to go at their own speed and purchase how they want. So if they need to reach out to us to be able to get specialized pricing and we provide that to them, we want to be able to honor that via self-serve to allow them to just purchase how they want to. And also focusing heavily on cross-selling, as I mentioned, right? We're acquiring companies. How do we drive that visibility and allow that purchasing experience from a centralized spot is a big focal point for us.
Yeah, so pretty common, need for agility, need for more speed, need for growth, both growth from new customers and growth out of the existing installed base. Yeah, very common. What's been, in working with new, what's been the biggest positive surprise that you've experienced so far?
Yeah, great question. I would definitely say there's two things. One of which is how well the technology works between direct sales and self-service. That's something that I've experimented and use a lot of different technologies. I'm not sure if you've done the same, I imagine you have, of trying to figure out how do we have this seamless experience. So one, the technology's been surprisingly great of how well it works between going back and forth between multiple channels. But secondly, how great the partnership has been with new. That's been a big problem and a big frustration point for PDQ is this is actually going to be our fourth billing system migration. We started off on NetSuite building something custom. We then migrated to ChargeBee. We then switched over to Stripe billing. And 2 weeks, or probably no, actually probably about 2 months before that switch over to Stripe billing, I kind of realized that this is actually not going to work. As I had stepped into the company and about 2 months in, I was like, we're probably gonna have some issues. So then that was kind of when we started exploring alternatives, and New has just been a great partner through that experience of being able to provide support. And as things have come up, they've been amazing to help address them.
Matt, how about for you?
Yeah, Andrew stole my answers, so I'm going to try to twist them a little bit. I think first and foremost, it's the people. I'm lucky enough, right? Like someone from New worked for my company.
They know you all on a first name basis.
They do, good and bad. But I think it's that adaptation, right? Like I can pick up the phone, well, never the phone. I'm not a phone person, but I can email them, right, or send a Slack, right, and they're responsive. Or if they don't know an issue, right, or maybe it's something that's not offered. It's not a, hey, that's on the roadmap, or hey, we can't accommodate that. It's more like, let's reassess, right? Like how is that important to you, and where can we fit that in? In a word, that's partnership. But it's not just the partnership, it's every single person there cares that I've interacted with. It's not like a job, it's literally how do we grow New? How do we put ourselves, as that competitor in the steel brick Aptus, space? Like how do we become that trusted, and I think it's trusted partner, right? I think the second piece is, when I was surprised, is we have a very legacy billing platform, Sage Intacct. I have less errors in converting New data to Sage than I did with SteelBrick to Intacct. And SteelBrick and Intacct were partners. Like that just blew my mind. Like overnight when I flipped the switch, my error rate in conversion and math, right, between the two platforms just dropped, and we didn't have that. Like proration multiplier, no longer ripping my hair out. Like it's a number and it works, and I can do math on it and convert it to another system. There's no like double secret probation equation in there that works like every other time. So those would be the two, right? Partnership, and there's always just something about the data model that is accurate, right? You don't have to get that Rubik's Cube out.
You guys both are inside of sophisticated businesses, right? M&A in tough competitive markets. How did you, and with experience working with, let's say, long-term known household brand names, Stripe, Sage, et cetera, Salesforce, how did you overcome or get the organization to get comfortable with the fact that New is new?
Yeah, so as a startup, it's funny, right? You always pitch to your procurement team, and the first thing they say is like, oh, who's this company? And I'm like, well, they're new. Like, no, we get it, they're new. Like, who are they? I'm like, oh, it's new. Well, how far along are they? I'm like, and at the time, right, I don't think they had a Series A. And they're like, well, it's a startup, that's risky.
Right.
And then I look at them and deadpan, right? I'm like, we're a startup. And all of a sudden, that clicks, right? But I think we had about a 12-month journey. When I came on, the decision by the board was to roll it intact. I pushed and said, where can we go on this, right? So once we rolled that out and we saw our refunds just drop dramatically, we said, okay, now we have to tackle the quoting engine, right? That, at the end of the day, is the most important. I got major pushback at first, right? And put together a deck, walked them through it. Everyone's like, this is a great product. Why does it matter, right? First time my answer was no. 6 months later, I came back and re-engaged. And I said, here's every single thing in every single project we've had over the last 6 months that I said, this will take a month. This will take 2 months. By the way, I just got a demo tenant and I proof of concept that out in 5 hours. Almost overnight, it was like, okay, how do we clear this, right? And so Mark hopped on a call, right? Tina hopped on a call, like CTO to CTO, CEO to CEO, everyone bought in, right? They realized that there was that, but it was a big hurdle, right? Like what happens if they go down overnight? Like, are we gonna be supported? Like, if we build this into our product, right? Is it gonna cause a P1 or P0 that's gonna drop us? And we built those risk plans, right? And I think risk mitigation in this space is key, right? Because it is a compliance and an audit thing, and giving that trust that got us over. The tech was a nice, cherry on top, but really that trust, like this is a company that's gonna be here to stay, and if we have a problem, they'll fix it for us. We're not gonna submit a ticket to an unknown void and maybe get an answer, 3-4 weeks later. What about you?
Yeah, for us, I think there was some degree of having executive comfort around, hey, new is a newer company, and but I think the product and the ROI that would come from implementing new, like very much overcame a lot of those objections as we were diving in and doing proof of concept and showing, hey, here's how easy some of these things are. Here's where, right, we were unable to do X, Y, or Z. Here's how we can now do this to be a lot easier and be able to demonstrate that there's going to be a lot of benefit here by implementing new. It was something that our executive team understood, hey, there's a problem in the market that new is solving for. And consequently, even though they're a smaller company, right, we believe it'll be still a good investment, and new had some promising things coming down the pipeline as well.
Was it almost too easy or too fast? Because we see this all the time where somebody shows up and says, hey, we can do in 5 hours what you're used to doing in 5 months. And it's almost like, well, that must be some kind of lightweight toy.
Yeah, I think that was part of it, right? Is we've all been in those demos and it's great, right? You're like, that thing is amazing. And then you realize, oh, it's filtered within our example. I think what really impressed us, right, was Morgan at the time, fantastic AE, we'll work with her forever. Did a demo in real life, right? Like she set it up for our product catalog and went through it, and then we had her change it on the fly, right? And we're like, okay, this isn't a vanilla demo anymore. Okay, change something, and we saw that in real time, and then we hit the API on it. But it really was like, this is too good to be true. What's the catch? And the more we got in, deep, there were no catches, right? And I'm not being dramatic there. Like I have yet to go like, oh, we have a bait and switch here. Like every single thing is transparent, and if a feature's not rolled out, they'll tell us, right? Like we pick it up and say it like, hey, no, we never thought of that. So there was that feeling of it's too good to be true, but I've yet to run across anything that's proved it.
Agreed.
How do you guys think about, you started with quoting. How did you decide to prioritize that versus billing? You got a lot of things on your plate. Why choose the hardest, why choose this in the first place?
Yeah, I came on board and I knew I had to stabilize billing. I thought it was a 6-month project and I'd be done. Here I am 2 years later. And it's because
Job security.
Job security, but it's because of that complexity, right? Like you have the quoting that then feeds into our billing, that then feeds into our product, and then we have to pay, the invoices through our product. But we're in cannabis, right? And so we don't get the fun tools like Stripe. We have an authorized.net that we have to build out customization on. We don't get banking rails, and so we had to build our own and use.
Right,
our
you guys
product.
operate. I don't think everybody knows the cannabis business operates outside of the federal banking regime. So those businesses, it's a very tough business in a sense because it's basically a cash business, and moving money around is difficult.
Yeah, $5.99 on your standard SaaS invoice. Like we'll we'll see those credit cards bounce, right? Like $599 is too high for an individual credit card in SaaS, right? And so we had to build in that fault tolerance, right? Like how do we continue to bill? Like how can we build in, the credit monitoring pieces, right? Or refunds and those pieces. So I think we chose the quoting piece first because we knew that if we're going to do PLG, we had like steel brick just wasn't going to cut it, right? As an engineer, the APIs just didn't flex that well, and so we tackled that. And luckily, because we did that, when our CRO, CPO, and CEO came out in January and said, "Hey, we're moving to usage-based pricing on our marketplace. How do we do it?" I said, "Oh, easy, you." And we instantly hooked that up, and we were able to get the products built, and then there's a proof of concept hitting from our marketplace, within a week in a sprint, right? And that's why we tackled it first, right? We knew that in order to, no matter what billing platform you use, the inputs are the critical piece of it, and that's why we tackled it first, just to give us that flexibility across the stack.
Andrew, how do you guys think about prioritizing things?
Yeah, it's definitely a more tricky situation we've had a lot of integrated components with the PLG side of the automated provisioning. We had a self-serve portal. So we've tried to move away as much fluff as we can of, hey, what's the bare bones of what we need? And a lot of it boils down to we need to keep feature parity with how things are working right now. So our implementation has taken a little bit longer because we're completely rebuilding everything for direct sales within New. We're migrating everything for self-serve. We're also, as part of our quote to cash journey, have been trying to apply a 10x mentality as part of this. If we were to 10x the number of customers that go in and purchase, or 10x the number of acquisitions, how do we do that efficiently without having to 10x the technology or the people to be able to support it? So part of this has also included us rebuilding our self-serve portal as well. Since we've got we had a team of 8 engineers plus an engineering manager plus a product manager overseeing our billing portal, we came up with a solution that allows us to be able to drastically decrease the headcount there, to be focused more on the actual product itself rather than around billing. So that piece has taken a long time as we've been rebuilding our billing portal. But we've been just trying to break it down into what's bare bones of what's needed and execute against it.
This is always a debate amongst enterprise architects. Do you have a quote to cash silo for each sales motion? Do you try to do it all in one? How do you guys think about that, and why?
I would love to think about them holistically as a systems person. We know that's not the reality, right? Because especially when you do M&A, right, or you're dealing with GMs across different product lines, right? They think in a different lens, right? Like I need to be able to sell this product this way because that's how the selling motion goes. And you always get those competing interests across, right? And where you want to have a streamlined process so you can say, here's my Miro, right? Like FinOps, RevOps, BizOps, here's how you can figure out the process. And I think that simplicity helps, right? Because at the end of the day, the more people who understand your quoting and billing process and like what goes into it, the less FUD or that fear, uncertainty, and doubt you get, the more they can figure things out for yourselves. When it's so piecework together that you have to like figure out like, oh, okay, this works this time, except when X happens. Oh, but then Y happens. But then a meteor hit the earth and now nothing works. Like those things always make teams struggle. And so I strive for the least common denominator across, and then setting non-negotiables. Like here is where we're not going to flex on, right? Like no matter what your sales process is, here's what you have to do in order for us to support it.
So let's just drill into that. How do you avoid becoming the department of no?
Yeah.
We're not going to take that business because we can't, it's too expensive.
Yeah, I think it's having that understanding that you're here to support and partner, just like I think everybody in this room is, right? Like you're trying to solve that problem. You want to solve that problem, but the constraints of real life, right? And I think at the end of the day, the conversations I have, right, is okay, what's going to drive revenue here, right? Like, is that going to be a revenue side? Is that going to drive efficiency? Like, where is that give and take, right? Like, is this a strategic play that's going to drive the business? Okay, that might have some, more play there. But at the end of the day, every single time I feel like it's a snowflake. But as long as you have that decision process that people know, like you're not saying no because you want to say no. You're going through a framework.
Right.
that
There's a
aligns
governance
with it.
model
Yeah.
that everybody can understand.
Yeah.
Andrew, how
Yeah.
do you think about it?
Yeah, I think about it in a very similar way where I try to avoid no as much as I can, but it's more of a yes, but we'll have to prioritize this and make it a little bit softer on the stakeholders. But I think, again, it boils down to a lot of revenue impact and how is this going to drive the business? And then let's figure out where that fits inside of the priority. Going a little bit back to the original question of, right, unifying and bringing everything together, PDQ has very much has valued bringing everything to be centralized, whether it's our data, our tooling, our customers, as we want to be able to give customers the best experience, but also our internal employees the best experience. If we have the data and the system separate, reps have to swivel chair, they have to go into different locations, where if you're able to unify everything together, like that allows a lot of efficiencies for reps inside of the data. This also unlocks some great functionality for customers too, right? If you purchase one product, if you have all the data centralized and the system set up correctly, it's easier to get product number 2 or product number 3. So we find that to be really valuable for our customers, but also employees.
I think you hit on a point there, and I know it's not part of it, but I think this is something that's overlooked, right? And it's it's saved my bacon so many times. With New, at least, right? Because it's a dual system, right? And you have the data already in Salesforce, but it's also in the API, right? And you can cache it and you can drive typical back-end development. We were already piping our data into our data warehouse from Salesforce, right? Like we already had those pipelines set up. To set up a pipeline from New itself, right? I would have to work with data engineering and we have to do that. No, I just went into Fivetran, clicked a button, and that data is in our warehouse, right? And so as you think about like things like Agentforce or AI, like you don't really need to wrap in Data Cloud for billing with New because that data is already a first-class citizen within Salesforce. Like even if you don't use Agentforce, like as you're looking at flows, as you're looking at other tooling, like it's exposed. And if you don't want to deal with the Salesforce APIs, well, you can deal with some very lightweight, very flexible, very performant RESTful APIs on the New side and plug that in. So I think to that point, like it's basically like, how can we report on it? Anytime you add a product, and the fact that we can get that data and drive those revenue questions is really key.
So there's a big transition going on in the industry, which is Salesforce CPQ going through its life cycle, let's say. I want you guys to play the role of industry analyst because you guys know the product, know what customers are facing, know the force of the Salesforce sales engine, right? What advice would you give to organizations that are faced with that choice of I'm either going to double down and continue on the Salesforce Revenue Cloud or RCA path, or think about alternatives?
Yeah, I think at least for me, a big component is cost of ownership, right? As we were diving in and evaluating different tools, what's going to be the resources need to build it and maintain it long term? For current state, right? Of hey, if you're making a switch and doing thing in current state, how much is that going to cost? But secondly, if you were to change anything, right? If you were to add a new product, bundle things differently, integrate another acquisition, how easy is it to iterate and do that was another big component as we were thinking about what technology makes sense for us. Also thinking about what comes out of the box too. Like I think the ease of being able to configure things and do things out of the box is very beneficial as opposed to having to do a lot of things custom, where I think that's one of the powerful things about Salesforce is you can customize whatever you want about Salesforce, but oftentimes that comes with a cost and the resources needed to be able to do it. So
I didn't ask you guys, what size of teams do you guys have? What size of organization?
Yeah, so LeafLink itself is 300 employees across the 3 subsidiaries. My engineering team right now, I have a total of 5 backend engineers across the multiple features and pods, and then I have a team of 4 on the Salesforce side supporting us.
Andrew, how about?
Yeah, so PDQ, we've got about 230, 240 employees. And on the business system side, it's myself and then 4 other individuals. We just recently extended an offer to someone, so that's including them. So very lean team.
Lean teams. Yeah.
And I think that's another piece, right, as we're looking at analysts, right? I mean, how many people out there, right, you have clients that you staff what in a steel brick world? You have a steel brick architect and you have a steel brick admin. I don't have an admin or specialist for quote to cash right now. I have a Salesforce admin and a Salesforce engineer, and they're in there and happy, right? My RevOps and FinOps folks are in there happy. Like, I don't have to have a dedicated resource that does one thing. I can use them as a Swiss Army knife, and when we have quote to cash work, they can pick it up. When I don't have quote to cash work, like Service Cloud, they can pick that out. But going to the analyst question, right? I think it's one of those it depends questions, right? As an analyst,
You'd be a great analyst.
Yeah, I had that economics degree. It depends is every single test, right?
McKinsey's got an opening for you.
But yeah, it depends, right? If you're a stable enterprise and you have product market fit and things are just going as is, there's no pressure, right? Like, you know that end of life is coming, technically probably here already, but you're not rushing as much. But if you're in that product market fit area, right? If you're a high M&A, it's what can I do with that today in my infrastructure and how much time is it going to take me, right? Because as you go into steel brick now, every single thing that you build is throwaway work. Like, that is literally work that is time boxed probably for the next 5 years, and you're going to have to re-implement it no matter where you go. So as an analyst, I would say, like, where's your market going, right? Are you in growth? Are you experimenting? Like, are you going to have change? Focus on that and go there. But if you're stable, I think you have time, right? But I think it's also, when we look at AI, headless is going to win, right? Like, every CRO out there you talk to, they're like, I want my reps to be able to create a quote just by typing in a GPT in 4 minutes and send it out the door. Flip side, right? Product-led growth. I want to be able to talk to a chatbot and say, I want to add a brand. Boom, done, right? Plain text, it's out the window. Like, not clicking around, not finding the billing page, all of those things. So as an analyst, I would say, who has the tools and the flexibility to drive that new AI LLM world, right? Like, are your APIs performant and exposed, right? Like, is your data model smart enough for an LLM to figure out? And like, even in that data model, like, can it read that product catalog and go, yeah, this makes sense. This is a bundle. Cool, that's $5.99 and you qualify for it, right? Like, so those data connections, I think anybody who can solve those questions is gonna be the strong player in the market. If you're proprietary, I'm gonna build everything internally and use our proprietary tools, I feel like that'll be a disadvantage, right? Like, you're going back to black box proprietary when, even as an engineer, the world feels more like flexible hub and spoke platform, you know, spoke upon spoke, not really even a hub anymore, right? Like, everything's distributed.
That's right. Yeah, as we say, going back to Salesforce, we say it's a below average outcome for an above average cost.
Yeah.
So there's a number of folks in the services business. You guys have worked with partners, you know, over time and over your careers. What advice would you, if you could give unvarnished advice to your services partners, what advice would you give to them? What are the things that you are looking for from them that you'd like to see, or what are you not getting from them that you'd like to receive?
Yeah, at least for me personally, it's being unbiased towards what specific product should be used, right, to identify and drive a solution. I think for me, having a partner that is really trying to be focused around, hey, how do we provide the right thing for PDQ is very valuable, and not trying to force something into a specific box. So I'd say that's one thing. But secondly, having a good and deep understanding of our business. I know PDQ is very unique, and we're on the more complex side, so that provides some additional hurdles to get over. But having a good partner that really understands our business and is willing to put in the work to understand it definitely goes a long way.
Yeah, I agree with Andrew on his points. And I would say the best partnerships I've had isn't I'm coming in to do this deliverable, right? Like, you want to implement this. It is literally, what problem are you trying to solve? Like, where are you trying to go? And then building in that plan, right? If you're just saying, okay, we're going to implement you, cool, like awesome. But I'm going to implement you to drive this and then have those individual components, right? Everyone has their playbook, we all have our tools, but being open to say like, yeah, I'm willing to think outside the box. I'm willing to stretch as that consultant. It'll be a little bit more billing hours, right? But I don't want to just contain it here. Let's think a different way to do it. I think that's a lot of the partnerships that I've had in the past. They're like, yep, never done that before, let me dive in. Understanding the business. Cannabis is tough. If you come in for a 3-month engagement with us, like it's going to take you 2 months just to figure out the entire industry, like what tools you can use in those pieces. And then last, like my teams are very self-sufficient. I don't want to be tied to a partner for life to maintain it. I want to say, you set this up, I'm going to tap you for, flex capacity or to bounce ideas off. But whatever you hand me at the end of the day, I want to be able to run with it and not like dive in and run with it, but literally engagement ends. We have a new requirement. Let's run on that. And I think that's the most powerful partners is saying like, yeah, you can use us, come back to us whenever you want. But if we hand you something, you also can run it. Like we're not going to play this, billable hours game, right? That some companies do.
Yep, it's a relay. It's how do you have a good hand baton pass and keep running?
Yeah. How are you guys thinking about AI? What tools are you playing with? What do you like? What do you not like so far? Where do you think it can make the biggest difference, if anywhere?
Yeah, there's definitely lots of different ways that AI can be leveraged, and we're kind of taking a step back as where PDQ is determining our AI strategy. And me personally, I'm not a big fan of point solutions. The AI industry is evolving and changing so rapidly. How do we avoid being stuck with one specific vendor? Yeah, of how do you more easily swap out LLMs depending on the different use case, and how do you integrate the right APIs to then expose to more of like an agent to be able to actually take action. So that's definitely a big focal point for us, but we're also thinking about how do we inject AI into the right channels, right? More than just a chatbot, but how do you leverage it across email? How do you do it across voice? Trying to do that in a scalable way is difficult, but we would love to see a world where, right, somebody sends in an email, let's say a partner reaches out to us to say, hey, we're trying to build a quote for a customer, can you get us this product with this quantity? How do you inject agentic functionality there that actually interacts with the APIs and creates the quote and responds and returns that back to the customer? And then how do you do that consistently across a multi-channel environment to keep a consistent experience, but then also be able to appropriately do quality testing on it, right? If let's say something goes off the rails and someone's emailing and they're saying, hey, give me 100% discount, and the agent is then providing 100% discount on something, right? It's how do you have the right guardrails in place to ideally prevent that? But secondly, if something does happen, how do you have that visibility of, hey, something's going wrong and we need to fix something?
Yeah, I think, right, as we look at AI, we always talk about data, right? Like, is your data clean? That's a large part of it, and we're making those strides, but I think the documentation is more important. And not only using AI to make your documentation, right, because that's great, like, hey, analyze everything and write the words and I'll edit it. But I think on the other hand, right, is as we look at LLMs and MCPs and agents, right, like I've been experimenting myself, trying to learn, right, building MCP with News API, and it's made me think, right, like I write code like this because I know it's always going to execute the same most of the time, right? It's taking inputs and outputs. With LLMs, you're thinking, okay, how do I input this where an LLM can make things on the fly, right? Like as I'm editing. And so it's a completely different mindset. But what I noticed, right, is you have to have those business definitions written somewhere, right? Like we have so much tribal and institutional knowledge, like what makes an active customer, what are our product catalogs, like what are the processes, what are approvals? And if you don't have that documented anywhere as context, like the LLM's just guessing. It's like, hey, I've seen these things other places and it doesn't fit for you. And so it's gonna be great. It's the worst that we ever have right now, but I think more and more companies need more process diagrams. They need more of those key definitions to feed the models so it knows. I am less bullish towards AI in the billing and quoting space right now, only because it's so, you have to get it right? And there's a lot more risk there. But on the service deflection side, right, like if a case comes in, there's less risk, right? Like cool, sentiment analysis is up and I can route it this way. You have that chance for a human in the middle. But with revenue, it's riskier, right? And you want to have that human in the middle and those pieces. If you miss it, like, you could have a huge risk, right? You can either bill someone $1 million or you can bill them $1, right? And then that's revenue either way. So to answer it, I'm thinking of AI like prep for it, right? Experiment, get up to speed, get out those ideas, but we got to set the foundations first.
Yeah, I think there's also some cool AI functionality that allows for more of like human in the loop, right? Of AI gets it to the 99-yard line, and then, hey, it requires a final checkbox of, hey, review and approve and automatically send it out, where I think there's a lot of hesitancy around AI specifically for some of those reasons of, we're gonna bill someone $1 million or give something for free. I think there's starting to become some more players in the game that allow for, hey, let's get everything as close as we can, let's get some final sign off on here, and then get to a point where, hey, we can see that over time that the AI is actually doing a really good job and it's 100% accurate, or maybe we find that, hey, it's 80% accurate, and where do we need to make some tweaks here to make sure we can get it to a higher degree of accuracy?
Yeah. You mentioned tooling and what we're playing with. I love N8N. I've not deployed anything enterprise grade on it, but I love N8N. It's a low-code tool, right? You can get it for free. You got drag and drop. There's tons of YouTube videos on it, and you can become a Vibe marketer. But what it allows you to do, right, is build those connections just on a drag and drop and play, right? Like, hey, if I throw this data over here, what's that, what's Gemini gonna return, right? Do I wanna distribute across multiple LLMs and those pieces? So I'd say that's a low risk thing to play, right? I love Census. It's our reverse ETL tool. They've released a data, AI data enrichment, like in modal, right? So I can say, pull my data in, enrich this field, and then I can send that field anywhere, right? I can send it to my ERP, Salesforce, and everything, and it's analyzed, right? And you don't have to build any code for it. You just tell it your prompt, and it injects in there. So I think those are like two really lightweight ones we've used. I'm of the view, like, AI is new, right? Like, no one knows where it's going. Right. So I don't want to invest in a point solution. I don't want to buy, company X's solution and then have to buy company Y's solution and company Z's solution. I want to build one centralized place that no matter where you are in the business, you can say, I'm using this tool, right? Engineers can use it, business use it, and everything. If you're stuck in one platform, now you have dedicated resources to maintain that platform. And then you have to have dedicated resources to maintain this platform, and that gets expensive.
Where's the budget gonna come for AI?
If I were to be jaded, workforce. I think ultimately it's going to be workforce.
So you see it as an efficiency tool.
And I think it's a wrong play.
Do more for the same.
Yeah, do more with
Be able
less,
to
do more with the
scale.
same.
Yeah.
But the more we see the studies, right, the more we realize that AI isn't getting you those 30 to 50%. Like, those are just numbers that are thrown out. Like, I've asked time and time again for time studies, where are you getting 30 to 50%? Like, what is efficiency? But we're noticing more and more, especially at least on the engineering side, is it's a lot of time to debug. It's a lot of time to go back and try to fix things. And so to try to make it as an efficiency play, I think is the wrong move. I think it should be enterprise budget, right? It should be your innovation budget. It should be driving forward, but that's so hard for a lot of COOs and CFOs who are saying, like,
Especially today.
yeah, I'm getting pressure to cut, right? I need to contain margin. Hey, workforce is my most expensive piece, right? Let's cut them out. But I don't know. I think it's the wrong play. I think everyone should be gaining that knowledge today, becoming more efficient, and keep your staffing levels where they are, and then make that decision. But it's a tough call, and I'm glad I'm not a CEO or CFO.
Yeah, I think PDQ is very much looking at it from the lens of, right, we don't want to replace staff necessarily and start cutting people, but how do we enable individuals to use AI to become more efficient in their role? And as that matures and becomes more solidified and verified of, hey, this is actual efficiency gains, this would then impact future hiring for what's needed to maintain the business. I think there's also some use cases, right, that, hey, you can immediately start allowing an agent to offload some of this work, less so on the engineering side, but for supporting customers, right, of some of those easy use cases, there's definitely a big value proposition there for it.
Any questions from the floor? Anyone?
A few minutes ago, you were talking about support and need for administrators. Salesforce case you mentioned how you didn't need any now. I wondered if you could peel that back a little bit, explain a little. It's the same business, you're processing the same type, you're supporting the same business. What is it about new as a product that fundamentally says I don't need the support that I do if I'm with CPQ or if I'm on RCA? I'm trying to understand at a deeper level what that actually means.
So just to repeat the question, let me make sure I get it right. So the question is, what is it about new that enables?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you mentioned it's the same, but he was mentioning
Yeah.
how he didn't need an administrator in the same context as he did with Salesforce and CPQ. I'm just curious at a product level, a couple levels down, why that's the case.
So what is it about the new product that gives you kind of more power for less support, less administrative overhead, if you want to call it that?
Yeah, I think it's the UI and UX, right, at the end of the day, right? Like if in like steel brick world, right, like you had to go into Salesforce and you clicked here and then you clicked here and you clicked here and then you clicked here, right? You enter data here, you enter data here, then you copy paste and move data over here. With new, you just go into the UI, you go to product catalog, you say create product, you drag and drop things in, right? And you say, this is the price, here's my price book. Like it abstracts all that logic up to a high level of a UI, UX in a modern world that an average person uses in their day-to-day, right? Like it's that drag and drop features, it's I click here. Now, if you go back to like more complex things, right? Like I wanna be able to view price tags. I can go to my engineer and say, here is the boilerplate code, adjust it for our situation. They don't need to know like, oh, there's a preserved bundle structure that keeps these things to hold together. There's none of those really gotcha or tribal knowledge things that have grown over time that you have to remember. It's literally go into the UI, add your products, configure your bundles, add your pricing, and off to the races, unless you need some of those more advanced use cases like quote line groups, right? Not having to know all the ins and outs of quote line groups and how they don't renew, right? And they might renew into other contracts. No concept there, right? It's a line bucket and they interact together. So I think if we were to boil it down, it's just that less of a data model, right? Like it's very concise data model with wrappers around it that tell you things in plain English. Is that?
Yeah. That's great.
I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I was going to say pretty much the same thing of the UI, UX is streamlined. Like you don't have to know, okay, I need to go to the product, I need to go to product options, oh, I need to go back and remember, oh, I need to actually create another product to create that relationship, or I need to set up a custom pricing calculator in RCA and set up the pricing procedure and do all these different things. It's a very guided experience. And I think to what Matt and Mark earlier was mentioning, they're very targeted about the use case here, which results in not needing to inflate your object and data model. That makes things a lot more complicated. But yeah.
And shout out to price tags. I think price tags is one of the coolest features I've ever seen. Yeah. I mean, like my usage model, right? Like I have 500 different custom usage plans, right? In CPQ world, like I would have had to build custom code. In this land, it's like, okay, price tag, here's our default. Hey, rep, you need to adjust it, copy and adjust it. And multiple tiers, caps, allowances on the bottom, like all clicks, not code. Like price tags are absolutely amazing, especially from a PLG where you can say, I want to run a discount and I run a promotion, here's your promo code. Same time, right, my engineering team can hit the API, create those. It allows all the teams to work in the tools that they are comfortable in.
Yeah, and one other thing to add is just the degree of knowledge of which you need to have to do something inside of new versus something like, not trying to throw RCA under the bus, but something like RCA of you have to really have a great understanding of data modeling and how everything works together. If you're making a change to how a product works, you have to understand, well, what implications does that have in flows? Do we have Apex that's being used? Do we need to adjust the pricing procedure, the product procedure? Are you familiar with velocity and understand Omni Studio and how all of that comes together? Like there's a lot of moving pieces with RCA, which makes it to some degree very powerful, but it also requires a very comprehensive individual that understands all of it.
I mean, how many admins know Velocity or Omni Studio? I haven't touched it. I mean, and I'm pretty technical, and I'm like, Omni Studio, why?
Yeah.
Question in the back.
Hi, do you guys have any predictions for the future of the Salesforce ecosystem?
So the question is, any predictions for the future of the Salesforce ecosystem? There's one or two people in the room who might be interested.
Take a second here, because if you follow me on LinkedIn, you know I have some ideas here.
Where's the popcorn? We need some popcorn.
You just gained 50 new followers.
I think Salesforce has a very serious issue with people and the reckoning there, right? What made Salesforce so successful, and you hear these stories time and time again, are the people, right? The tech is solid. Like, there's things I complain about and would love to fix, right? Like, I don't know, automated end-to-end unit testing and flows on an integrated automation system and a SOC 2 environment. But still, it's the people, right? Like, how did Salesforce grow? You got that accidental admin, right, who was fired up and could really wanted to make a change, right? They were in a department and they said, I need to fix this. And you gave them the tool and they fixed it. Right now, it's going more and more technical, right? It's a technical world. AI is confusing, but we don't have those people thing, right? Like, we saw it with well architected, right, going away. Like, all the people programs came away and it was a focus on product. I think the messaging and everything has to be like, hey, everyone in the community who made this company great, you're still important, right? Let's re-engage. Let's take away that fear of AI and tell you how it can actually make you better, right? It's that next level of the accidental admin, right? Like, you've gone from this level to now an AI player in this real world. And I think that messaging has to be important. It has to be less of, we're not hiring developers because we're saving 50%. That sends the wrong message. It should be, we're empowering more developers to be smarter, right? We're empowering more admins to deliver, right? Like, we're breaking down those barriers that you get from your end users who say, I need this now, and we're making that faster, right? Like, we're building internal tooling to say, hey, did you really mean to put that delete elements thing in your flow, right, or a loop? Giving those tools, I think that's what I want to see Salesforce do, right? Empower the users who are on the platform today to make their platform better and ready for AI, and then focus on Agentforce. That's my prediction, or at least what I want.
Is that a Salesforce thing, or is that the start of a SaaS versus AI native thing?
So the question was, is that a Salesforce thing, or is that an issue of SaaS in general versus AI in general?
Yeah. I think if you look at what HubSpot did, right? HubSpot said, let's connect all your data to OpenAI, right, or ChatGPT, and you are already using those tools today. Now let's extend it, right, and meet you where you are. Like, I think B2B software is super complex because you have to account for a lot of situations. But at the end of the day, most of our users want a B2C experience, right? Like, I don't want to think, I just wanted to do it. And I think, to your point, it is a B2B versus AI, because especially when you have activist investors, you don't know which way to go, right? Like, and you're trying to set up for the future, but you're leaving some of your legacy customers in the past. I think most of us are still in that legacy space, right? Like, we want to use AI, but we still have a lot of business processes that we support today, right? Like, and those things aren't going away. And so I think it's a balancing act. And I think the revenue targets are really what's going to play out. Like, that's a hand-wavy answer, because I just, yeah.
Any thoughts, Andrew?
Yeah, I also think there is a higher expectation of what software can do and what it should do. I think there's been a lot of nicks by 1,000 paper cuts across the board, and with AI coming into the scene, there's a higher expectation of you should be able to do more. The software should be more baked because you're seeing all of these efficiency gains. So I think similar, at least for me, in the quote to cash space, I feel like it's a very similar thing of we have to do a manual invoice here. This other thing isn't working correctly, and it's just a death by 1,000 paper cuts, which ultimately led to PDQ making the change. I think we're also seeing that to some degree on the Salesforce side as well. There's just been a lot of things that never have actually been taken care of, and I don't think anybody is quite to the point where it's like we're going to uproot off of Salesforce and move off. But I think there's higher expectations now of what software should be able to do and the quality of it.
Yeah. I'd like to toss it to you as an analyst, right? Like, you hear this a lot. Like, I'm like so many people on my feed say this, right? They're like, I'm ditching Salesforce and I'm going to this AI CRM, right? That no one's heard of. There's no connections and anything. Like, how do you see that hitting the market? Do you see like those third-party AI CRMs making a play, or do you see them kind of being that acqui-hire, right, that pushes some of the legacy players along?
Yeah, so I'll give you two points of view on it. One is specific to the situations where you see company X is getting rid of Salesforce, or Klarna's the one that got a lot of headlines. We're going to throw out Workday and do it all with AI. Anybody that's lived and worked in Sweden, I've worked for a Swedish company in a past life, they take HR kind of seriously over there. There's labor unions, there's laws. Anybody that thinks they're going to throw out their HCM system tomorrow and replace it with an AI system, I think is struggling to get their IPO done, which is the case of Klarna. So you got to step back from those things and say, what's really going on here? I don't think, at least the Fortune 500 is not going to walk away from Salesforce, from ServiceNow, from SAP, et cetera, tomorrow morning. Is there, in time, a significant threat to some of those businesses? Absolutely. I mean, some of those companies I just named, if you said, if your basic business proposition is built off of workflow, what is agentic AI pretty good at a fraction of the cost that you're paying to some of those companies? People are going to take a look at that, right? When the price differential is high enough that you have to look at it, right? If you look at, I'll pick on SAP for a minute. We had a client in Europe where they said that the migration to S/4HANA is going to be over €1 billion. At that point, the board says, hey, maybe we could build this stuff on our own. Like, there's got to be some other way, right, to do this. Like, that's a hit to earnings. That's painful. So I think this transition, you're going to see major dislocation that happens because of the price differences and some of the things that you can do. Does it mean you're going to throw out SAP tomorrow? Absolutely not, right? Core GL, that runs the Global 2000. So I think you got to be very careful about how you think about that. But it's going to happen, and it's coming, right? Specific to Salesforce, we've done a lot of research, just primary research, interviewing Salesforce CPQ billing RCA customers, where there's no analyst opinion or input at all. It's just simply like an hour-long deposition. Here's a set of questions, give us the answers. And what you see is, on one hand, most companies, they may be in a world of hurt. They're going to continue to double down, triple down, and follow that for a long way. At the same time, there's a lot of companies, when you start running NPS scores on the responses, it's not a bad NPS score. It's like negative, like significantly negative. And I think anytime you see that in any business, whether it's Salesforce or any other business, having been in enterprise software for 30 plus years, anytime you see that level of dissatisfaction, watch out. Because when these things flip, it's not like everybody thinks, oh, it's gonna, this is gonna trail off and this is gonna take off. Things go off a cliff and they go 4 wheels in the air, right? They go very quickly. Pick Nokia. They went from being global market share leader to who can spell Nokia, right? Half this room doesn't even know who I'm talking about. That's how this business works. So I think this shift for service providers in the quote-to-cash space specific to Salesforce, just having seen the data on NPS scores and responses across a range of businesses, from big cloud scalers to $50 million businesses, there's significant risk in that base. Last question for you guys. What's on the roadmap with new? What are you looking to do? What's coming in the near term?
Yeah, great question. So for us, it's going to be very focused on additional channels and enabling self-serve in more of our acquired companies. right, is we have been thinking about how do we drive additional visibility to our additional products. A lot of it is, hey, how do we introduce new inside of the other products that we've acquired? That coupled with more in-app focused offerings to our customers. Plus, we're also going to be exploring doing more of a partner portal type functionality to provide partners a better dedicated experience. Consequently, all of that touches new, but also we're building a lot of it inside of Retool as well. So that's our big focus over the next year or so.
Yeah, there's three things that I'm excited that we're addressing. One of it is one of our subsidiaries, LeafTrade, is 100% manual billing today. Like, it's literally download a CSV from QuickSight, upload it intact, manipulate it, and it takes one person an entire day to do it, maybe two. And if that person, and we only bill on the first day of the month. And so if that person's on vacation or leaves, right, like, it's hard for us. So rolling out that new process, the product catalog we built in 2 days. And that's already built, and now it's just saying, okay, how do we run billing on it, right? And setting those things up and sending it to Intact to book. So that's our first, and I think the largest thing that's going to really propel us forward is that. And that's our thin cut slice for our billing as well. And then we're also rolling out a little bit more self-service as well, like to add a brand, remove a brand today as a support ticket, and then over. And then the third piece is provisioning and deprovisioning. So like our churn, right? Like, takes emails account managers, right? Then FinOps, and then they cancel, and then somebody has to manually go on our platform. So starting to bring that unified data model together, which is the first time we've ever had like a source of truth between two platforms, which is exciting.
This has been terrific. You guys are going to be around all day tonight.
Yep.
So everybody take advantage of these guys. They're here. We didn't prep. Typically, you do a little prep in these things. We absolutely did not do any prep for this. So these were totally unscripted questions, just off the cuff. So these guys are around. Take advantage of it. Mark and Tom are here, of course. I'm going to be around. And thank you, guys. This was really informative.
Yeah,
Thanks.
likewise. Thank you.
It was fun.